To the show. Today I want to talk to you about who owns America's debt. We're coming up against the debt limit, the debt ceiling, the so-called debt ceiling. And all it means is that Congress has to vote to approve lifting the debt ceiling because obviously Donald Trump's only been in office, 55 days, 60 days. He's trying to force Congress to come up with a budget. First budget we'd be having in probably 25 years. And of course, the vested interests, the swamp, is refusing to cooperate. Dragging their feet really is the best you could hope for, is what they're doing. Well, honestly, trying to find updated 2016 numbers has been difficult. I've been Googling my ass off. This seems to be the most current. This is from May 2016. CNN Money shows that the United States owns 12.9% of the U.S. debt. China owns 1.3 trillion of the U.S. debt. Japan 1.1 trillion, and other countries 3.8 trillions. Now, what we're also seeing, this is as of January 2016, is that foreign governments have been accelerating their sale of U.S. debt, which is fine, no problem. Let them sell it. Also revealed that Saudi Arabia owns about $117 billion of the 20 trillion dollars that's owed. But that's not the most important thing. CNBC, now this is probably as of 2012, which is really old numbers, very old numbers. But I broke it down here between the 2012 and 2016, the latest figures. And this is going to be a little bit of approximation because I can't get current numbers. But of the $20 trillion of national debt, approximately 6.29 trillion is owned by foreign governments. And about 5.74 is owned by the U.S. government or its agencies. So that takes you to about $12 trillion, leaving about $8 trillion owned by pension funds, mutual funds, state and local governments, and insurance companies. Okay? The rest is fairly delineated here. Now, hopefully you can see this. I hope this doesn't... Oh, this is not good. Hang on. Let's do this. Let's do view. Let's do... maybe 200%. Slide this over. Can we do view? Fit the screen? Zoom. Zoom to selection. I can't do full screen. Actual size. All right. Hopefully you can read that. This is only This is 1080p resolution. Maybe go 125 maybe. So look. We know that China is the largest holder of U.S. debt, 1.3 trillion. But look, the United States is holding all the cards. If we wanted to pay this off, we could easily pay it off. Just give them back the 1.3 trillion with, what is it, less than 2% interest on the money? Just pay it back. Japan, the same thing. Now, what's interesting is the Cayman Islands. The Cayman Islands don't have any money. So I want to point out that this $265 billion is most likely, probably 99%, American and European companies who have made profits overseas doing the Dutch two-step, have moved money from outside the U.S. through the Netherlands to the Cayman Islands. And then they reinvested that money by buying T-bills. Okay? Now, probably $2 trillion, minimum $2 trillion, is being held offshore in these offshore accounts, like in the Cayman Islands, just sitting there, collecting no interest, perhaps. Just sitting there. I just want to point that out. And so think about it. American companies, or even probably European companies, taking their profits, paying as little as they can, and moving that stuff to the Cayman Islands using various legal, in quotes, they're following the rules, And you can Google Dutch two-step to find out one of those techniques if you're interested, to move the money to the Cayman Islands, to banking establishments in the Cayman Islands, and then reinvesting some of it in buying U.S. stock, buying U.S. Treasury bills, T-bills. And then we see some of the other big holders of U.S. debt. Taiwan, 184 billion. Russia actually owns 146 billion. Hong Kong, 138. Brazil, 237. And oil exporting countries, including Saudi Arabia, the Gulf states, and Venezuela, and this is as of May 2016, own about 254 billion in U.S. T-bills and Treasury bills. Again, the total foreign ownership, this is an old number. It's probably a little bit higher, maybe a little bit lower, is around $6.29 trillion. Now, what's interesting, and a lot of people don't know this, and this is not even a new idea, but one that was proposed not even before Trump, but another big guy on Wall Street, I can't even remember his name. I remember seeing him on either CNBC or on Bloomberg. And this is where I got the idea from. Look, he said, look who owns the debt. Okay, so we got insurance companies, okay, depository institutions, those are banks, Medicare trust funds. That's not even the biggest holder. Medicare trust funds. This is the lockbox, okay? When you pay your 3% Medicare tax and then your employer matches that tax, where does that money go? It doesn't go into a lockbox, as Al Gore was saying. It goes, the surplus has been going to buy T-bills as an IOU to pay back Medicare. So Medicare technically has $324 billion owed to it. Now, that's not going to last very long, considering that, under Obamacare, 2017, looking at spending like $100 billion just to fund the thing, which is out of control. It's outrageous. So, again, state and local governments, $444 billion. Now, look.
It's 10 o'clock.
It's 10 o'clock. Okay, it's 10 o'clock, March 27th, 2017. It's 10 o'clock in the morning. State and local governments have invested over $444 billion buying T-bills. What the F? If a state government has that kind of surplus, obviously this could be a rainy day fund, what have you, but it also means that $444 billion state and local governments are buying T-bills with this money. Why? Why aren't they reducing state taxes? Why aren't they paying off their debt? Okay, because they've got, liabilities and obligations, and with $444 billion, some people are talking about, several $1 trillion that state and local governments owe. Obviously, this is probably not all states, but that's a lot of money that shouldn't be invested in, sub 2% T-bills. That's just insanity. It's just insane. Okay, so mutual funds. These are whatever. People, individuals, companies bought mutual funds that are investing in T-bills. Pension funds, again, this is people's investment money, buying triple tax-free T-bills to invest their money. And obviously, it's terrible return, right? I mean, again, savings bonds and other investors. This is individuals buying whatever the series is now, E series, F series, savings bonds, $1.1 trillion. That's quite a lot of money that individuals have invested in. Now, the Federal Reserve, again, I believe this is a 2012 number. So 2012 just started QE2. Then there was QE3 when the Fed actually started monetizing the debt in a big way. This number has got to be even bigger. And the Social Security Trust Fund. Okay, now, total U.S. government holdings, not counting state and local governments, according to these numbers, is around $5.74 trillion. All of it can be eliminated. This is just bogus-ass accounting, especially the Federal Reserve. Where did the Federal Reserve get the money from to buy T-bills? They printed it out of thin air. They just created it out of thin air. It's absolutely nonsense. Now, the Social Security Trust Fund. Yes, the U.S. owes the Social Security Trust Fund just like it owes the Medicare Trust Fund, okay? But it's like if I gave money to my son and I say, son, you got to pay me back, but he's my son, so if he spent the money to buy me a car, how am I going to ask him to give me the money back? I mean, that's kind of what's happening here. You're taking tax money from the people, and instead of the government spending it wisely, it's buying treasury bills, right? It's buying treasury bills so that the government can overspend today. It's not even real. It's not even a real debt, in my opinion. And that's what this Wall Street guy was suggesting was, look, right there, about almost $6 trillion could be just wiped off the books right there, right? Social Security Trust Fund. Why should the government pay the government back? It's the government, right? It's going to be coming out of future taxes anyhow. So it's just nonsense, all right? So what I'm saying is, trying to make this simple, easily, $6 trillion could be wiped off the debt. Now we're down to around, what are we down to? 20 minus 6 is 14 trillion. Trump could easily do this. Easily say we're not going to pay back the Federal Reserve. Now I think this number for the Federal Reserve might actually be around $4 trillion. That's, again, not Greenspan, the next guy, Shalom, whatever his name is, bald-headed with the beard, he said that they would never monetize the debt. And then they started buying T-bills, 1%, sub 1%, right? Trillions of dollars worth, bailing out Obama. It's all political, it's all nonsense. But that's what happened. And where did this money come from? It's just created out of thin air. And that's what everybody who is against the Fed, wants to audit the Fed, has been saying, audit the Fed. Where's this money? And if you were to audit the Fed, I think you would be able to say, look, we're just not going to pay you back. The money you just created out of thin air. And I don't know what that would do to the dollar, to the value of the dollar, if people realize it's worthless, essentially. We make it valuable because we believe in the full faith and credit of the U.S. government, but that could easily be eliminated, all right? Look, we haven't had a balanced budget since Newt Gingrich was Speaker of the House and Bill Clinton was president, and we're talking, what was that? Up until 1990? Who came after Bill Clinton? After Bill Clinton came W. Yeah, 2000. He was elected, January? Inaugurated January of 2000. Is that right? Because 9/11 happened 2001. So no, he was sworn in probably January of 2001, January 20, 2001. It would have been. So we are talking 17 years since we've had a balanced budget, and what Newt Gingrich did. And, this is not anything special. If you just watch some of his podcasts or Google how did Newt Gingrich balance the budget, he tells you what he did. As Speaker of the House, he told every single member of Congress, you got to bring me something that I can cut. And what did that do? All of these special interests that every single congressperson is beholden to or protecting had to say to their constituents or to their fundraisers or to whoever, dude, I can't do this. I gotta cut it. Okay? Everybody had to bring something to the table to cut it. And that's what they did. And that's how you balance the budget. I mean, in a very short time. Now you can say Bill Clinton and Newt Gingrich had some positives, right? We had the peace dividend. Okay, the wall came down in 89? Right? 89. So we had the peace dividend, which meant that there was a reduction in military spending. That helped out a little bit. There was also the dot-com bubble, which wasn't a bubble yet, but the dot-com revolution, which really put a lot of people to work. And if you were working, didn't matter what you were doing, if you had a dot-com job, you were getting paid really good money. I mean, I know people that had basically low skill, no skill, a couple semesters of college, got jobs at .coms in New York City, making money that they've never been able to make before or since. Okay. Obviously, engineers, there was a shortage of engineers. It was a great time if you were an engineer and had any kind of technical skills in computer science or engineering or data center, whatever, software development. It was a fantastic time. So that obviously put a lot of people to work. We also had welfare reform, which took a lot of people off of welfare. So there's a lot of tailwinds that were helping the economy. Okay. Now, of course, all that stuff crashed later on. Wasn't very good. But, Trump has got a lot of stuff on his plate, and he's trying to do it. He's trying to do it. And I believe that he can do it. It's just going to it's taking time. And he can only do so much at a time, at one time, right? It's not even that he can only do so much at one time. I think that Congress can only handle so much at one time. I think Trump could get this done. Obviously, if he was a benevolent dictator, he could get it done in one day. But he's got to deal with Congress, and these people are dragging their feet. That's why we need term limits. This is one of his promises. Part of draining the swamp is term limits for Congress. We need to have term limits for Congress because this is out of control. How these people, you can see, Republicans have said, and this is really not for this video, but for almost for a decade, ever since Obama came in, elect us, we'll repeal and replace Obamacare, and this vote just happened, and it couldn't get it done. You've had 7 years to figure out how you're going to repeal and replace Obamacare. You couldn't get it done because, again, the swamp needs to be drained. There's too many special interests controlling what the replacement is going to be, keeping the prices high. So that would be another video for talking about healthcare and just some simple numbers. I mean, I just can't even imagine how this hasn't been solved, and it could be solved without any kind of government interference. It should be solved without government involvement and interference because they're just making the problem worse. And I'll put together a very simple, straightforward spreadsheet for you on that. But anyhow, this is about the national debt. It's $20 trillion. About a quarter of it could be instantly wiped off the books. Okay, the other monies here, again, look with China. People are saying that China controls us. No, they don't. At 1.3 trillion, they don't own shit. When you owe somebody $10, they have control over you. But when you owe somebody $1 million, you got some pretty good leverage, okay? And that's what's happening here. You can see, if China screws up, we got the leverage. We're holding all the cards. We've rebuilt China, okay, with trade. $400 billion this year in a trade loss to China alone, right, out of about $800 billion in U.S. trade losses. So we're holding all the cards. It's not even a problem dealing with these countries if, Trump said we're going to renegotiate this debt. We're going to convert everything into a 30-year bond at a fixed rate of 1%. That's really kicking the can down the road, but who the hell cares, right? Do you care? I mean, we don't care. We would just kick it down the road. Or you could liquidate it today for 60 cents on the dollar. It will pay you back 60 cents on the dollar. What are they going to do? What would these countries do if you make an offer like that? I mean, that's just off the top of my head, what I'd say. Listen, we're going to pay you back 60 cents on the dollar today. Take the deal. Or we don't have to take the deal if you don't need the money. We're going to roll it up into a 30-year treasury bill, T-bill, paid 1%. And, the rule of 70, what would that be? It would take 70 years to double your money. So in 30 years, you'd probably get about, what's that? Maybe 30%. We'd have to owe 30% more on this debt. But again, it's 30 years out in the future. Who cares? So listen, I'm Holy Joe Rock and Roll. I want to give you some food for thought. The debt ceiling is going to be raised. It's not even going to be a problem short term as long as these sort of numbers hold. But if you look at the budget that Trump has proposed, he's talking about some serious cuts to a lot of agencies that we all can agree it's not money well spent. Cutting money to the UN, not money well spent. Cutting money to so-called climate change when we're the only ones spending the money. Maybe Europe a little bit, but China's not, India's not. It makes no sense. It's just a waste of money. And the science that these, climate holocaust promoters are trying to throw at you, the science does not match any of the models, the climate models that they've given us. So, and the increase to the military spending is really almost just, it's 10%, it's $50 billion, but that is really just almost reversing the sequester. And by cutting some of these other government agencies, it's going to pay for itself. Also, if we can get these jobs coming back to the U.S., economic growth is going to kick in. More people are going to go to work. More people are going to be paying taxes. Less people are going to be taking welfare or whatever. And it's all positive headwinds, tailwinds that are going to improve the debt situation and the overall deficit, annual deficit, should go down. And if Trump can get his way and push through some of these things that he wants, we may be able to get to a balanced budget within the first 4 years. But, right now it doesn't seem to be a serious priority, but I know it is something that he has talked about during the campaign and probably something that he would like to do. It's just going to take some time. So listen, I'm Holy Joe Rock and Roll, reminding you to make it happen for the captain. You're the captain. Till next time.